Hi, my name is Dianne Blick. I am a real estate agent with Keller Williams Hometown Partners Blick Homes here in Hutchinson, Kansas, and you are joining Essentials with Dianne. Essentials with Dianne was developed so that we can make our buyers and sellers the savviest in the marketplace and introduce you to providers, vendors, suppliers, everyone who works with us on real estate transactions so that we can share with you what you might need to know in advance and make you more knowledgeable. And so I'm delighted to welcome Jeff Wells with Advance Pest and Termite Control here today. And Jeff, thanks for dropping in for this visit.
Well, thanks so much for having me here.
Well, you're welcome. I always, to tell you the truth, I absolutely always enjoy when you guys are coming on site to do an inspection for one of my homes, because I know that you're going to share with me what's going on. You're going to make everybody else knowledgeable that's on the buyer or seller side about what's going on, and you educate as you go, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Absolutely, absolutely. That's part of our number one priority is we want people to feel comfortable with the transaction. You know, we feel like we're working for both buyers and sellers in that process.
Well, yeah, you are. It truly, yeah, yes. And it's a requirement by lenders that in most cases that a home have a termite inspection. And I remember Al told me one time the percentage of homes in Hutchinson that have termites, it was over 50% as I recall. Is that correct?
Well, that's just the statistics that we have compiled, that termite evidence is found in approximately 50% of the homes that we inspect. And so now some of those homes, you know, the termite evidence occurred years ago, and others it's active. So yeah, about 50% of the homes that we inspect in the Hutchinson area, we do find termite evidence in.
Why 50%? I mean, not why do you find them? Why do we have that many?
Well, it's really a climate thing. We're in what is considered nationwide to be moderate heavy termite activity, and so in our area we have good moisture. We have really our winters, aside from this year, haven't been terribly cold, and so the termite population has had a chance to really thrive in our area. We also have lots of contributing factors. Moisture is a big one, and so not only do we have the standard rainfall every year, but we also have underground sprinkling that's fairly prevalent in these areas. We also have a lot of homes with crawl spaces, which lend to termite activity. And then we had a great population of elm trees in our area as well, and a lot of those elm trees were cut down in the late 70s and early 80s after Dutch elm disease kind of rolled through. And so those extensive root systems are still there and still viable for food sources, allowing the termite colony to propagate and just expand.
What about in wood? We have a lot of wood too.
We do. In fact, we tell people all the time, termites will never eat a house unless you build it. And so obviously homes in and of themselves are conducive conditions for termite infestations because they're made out of wood. And so anytime you plop that house right down in the soil, you create a conducive condition, a temperature differential in the soil that becomes attractive to wood destroying insects, and the homes become vulnerable.
They also love drywall, right?
Right. So a lot of times we hear from people routinely, well, I won't have termites because I have a brick home, and the brick homes are still built with wooden studs and with drywall. And so termites will absolutely go after cellulose, and so the paper on that is holding the gypsum together on the drywall is cellulose, and the termites have a heyday just eating the paper that's on the drywall.
Yeah, I was fascinated when I first became a real estate agent. You guys would point out the little trail up underneath the wallpaper, up underneath the paper on top of the gypsum, and you can actually see, if you know what you're looking for, and you showed me, so now I can see it too. You can see the little trail, the little bump that they leave as they eat their way up there.
That's right. In fact, it's called shadow casting. Shadow casting. It's an inspection technique where you cast your light across the drywall in such a way that you can see the imperfections behind. And we do that routinely. In fact, a lot of times we'll do inspections without the lights on in the house, and people always say, "Oh, let me get some lights here for you." And sometimes it's better for us that we don't have the lights on, that we're able to cast the light across the drywall. And then those termites that are working in that 32nd of an inch gap will oftentimes make little tiny air holes to help vent the methane gas that they're producing, and those are also telltale signs that termites are in and behind the drywall.
Okay, so this is on topic but off topic. How much a litter of termites? What is that called, and how many are there?
It's actually a colony.
Okay.
And I suppose we can start referring to it as a litter, which would be kind of fun. But no, they're colonized insects, and the reason that they fall into that category is because there are more than one generation caring for other generations in the colony. And so there's a king and a queen, and the king and the queen are the primary. The queen is the primary egg layer, and she will lay several different castes of termites, ranging from secondary reproductives to swarmers or alates, workers, and soldiers. And those termites all care for one another. A big colony in our area, maybe 1.5 million bugs. The average colony around 250,000 to 500,000 bugs. But again, the colonized definition or category is because we have multiple generations caring for younger generations. They feed and groom each other through a process called trophallaxis, which is really important in the process of identifying colonies and actually eliminating colonies.
You know, I know you've told me all of this before. I have to hear this a couple more times to really digest it all. And digest is probably not a good word to use right here. But it's fascinating that a bug has this much of a life. This is quite a life for an insect.
It is. And I will tell you that this is, even in the pest control industry, that really this information has really just started coming to light more and more over the past 15 to 20 years because of the processes that we're using now to treat and eliminate these colonies. Well, you know, we joke that when I got into this business 31 years ago, that we did what we called spray and pray. And we would spray this home, and then we'd pray that they didn't see termites again. And we didn't really understand habitat or biology or why the termites were working the way they were working. And so as we started into baiting systems and monitoring systems and really paying attention to how these critters work, we learned so much about them. And so the fact that a termite actually has a microscopic symbiote in its stomach that allows it to digest the wood that it eats.
Because it eats a lot.
They
for
do.
A little thing, it eats
for little guys, they really do. But they wouldn't be able to eat the wood and digest it for nourishment without that other organism in their stomach. And the amazing thing is they're born without that organism in their stomach. And so as again, they feed and groom one another. They actually pass that symbiote on to that next generation, and then basically are able to create wood eaters that can survive based on the consumption of cellulose because that symbiote has been passed on to them. It's fascinating, and we're learning more and more. And I'm so glad that I get to come here and do this today because really nobody else wants to know about termites' eating habits, you know. And so to be able to talk about it is fun for bug guys.
Well, it's fun for me, and truly, you have told me all of this before, but it's a lot to. It's fascinating. Well, I want to ask you about. We definitely need to talk about the baiting stations and the spray. But let's stop for a second, though. Let's talk about licensing, certification, education. First of all, what is required to be in your business?
So there are several different things that are required for businesses, licensing through the state, but then for applicators, the applicators have to take several different tests depending on which category of pest control they want to be in. And so using my background, for instance, I have a general pest test that every applicator has to take. And then I have it's a 7A license, which is structural destroying, wood destroying insect license. Then I have a structural invading pest license, which is 7E, a public health and safety license, which enables me to do things with mosquitoes and ticks and bed bugs. And then I also have a lawn license, or a turf grass license, which enables me to do things out on the grass that are, for arthropods that are detrimental to lawns. And so there are lots and lots of different categories. In order to do wood destroying insect inspections in the state of Kansas, you have to have a license to treat them. And so we actually, the Kansas Pest Control Association helped to get that law passed several years ago to kind of set us apart from home inspectors, to keep us away from ASHI certifications and that type of thing. We just want people to understand the biology of wood destroying insects before they start looking for them.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's good, because, I mean, like, there is no licensing for home inspectors. I could hang a license and say that I'm or a shingle up and say that I'm a home inspector. There would be a conflict with my real estate business, but that is not required. I'm really glad to hear about the in-depth licensing that's required. So the difference between spray and bait. So I always know when I go to a property, I can recognize your bait systems in the ground, and those get checked quarterly, right? You come out and check those quarterly unless you see activity, and then
not with our system. Actually, our stations are set up for 3 visits a year. However, the label, which is federal law, requires 1 visit per year.
Oh.
And so we try and get out there a little more often than that, because we'd like to develop a relationship with our customers as well. We want them to know who our guys are and who's on site. And so, yes, the stations are in place. They are monitored routinely. That's part of the service. And that is a distinct difference between a chemical application and a baiting system.
But now, your company also can do spot treatments with the chemical if you see that that's required. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Is that how that works?
Absolutely. In fact, we're licensed. We can do complete chemical treatments. We have kind of stopped doing complete chemical treatments for a couple of reasons. One, we just didn't feel good about it ethically. The average chemical treatment, complete chemical treatment, requires around 200 gallons of termiticide. And some of these termiticides are built to stay in the ground for anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And we look at that as a positive, but when you think about just our company alone, which is a small business in the middle of a small town, in the middle of a small state,
right.
We have about 2,500 baiting systems in the ground. Now, you have to forgive me, because I was an English teacher before I was a pest control operator, and so math is not my forte. But if you take 2,500 homes with baiting systems and an average of 200 gallons around each home.
It's a lot.
Yeah, like if I add it up, because math is hard, that's a bunch. It's a bunch. And so this...
So why would we be putting that into the earth when we can choose a less, not invasive, but...
Oh, absolutely less invasive, and less toxic, and more targeted. The thing is with chemical is chemical doesn't know the difference between a termite and an ant or a cockroach. Chemical's chemical. It's put in place to build barriers. And so the thing is with the baiting systems we use is they're very targeted. Unfortunately, sometimes too targeted. All they do is kill termites. They don't kill ants. They don't kill spiders. They don't kill your dog. They don't, adversely affect your grandchildren.
Right.
They kill termites.
Yeah. Well, and I know I've personally called you. We had an ant problem come up at our home.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have an ant problem. Went a long time with no ant problem, and then we moved some earth around the house, and then we had an ant problem. So your team came out and treated for the ants. It took a couple treatments,
yes.
But whew, and even with the rains this year, we haven't had ants back. So that's been really nice, yes, because we don't like those ants. And I know I had to call you one time because we had just listed a house in town, and Mama Skunk put a litter right out back by the air conditioner.
Right.
So you helped out with that problem.
Right. The pest control guys kind of get, they get all of these things, whether it's a skunk in a crawl space or a snake in a crawl space, or, the list goes on and on of the things that we do deal with. And I guess it's just, who else do you call? And so when there's a terrible smell coming from the crawl space and a possum has expired in there and it needs to be removed, who else do you call? And so we fall into that category. We've done a lot of things along those lines, and so yeah, it's an interesting profession.
Yes, definitely interesting. Yeah, and of course we have our story of the one with the cats and the birds in the attic, but that's another whole story.
Right, it's
Wow.
amazing. It's amazing what you find in attics and crawl spaces. It really is. And you know, the key for pest control companies, I think, and the key for people who are purchasing homes is to have a pest control company that they trust to do the inspection. You know, I think the biggest problem with our industry in general is there are companies that tend to hot sell termite jobs during wood destroying insect inspections for real estate transactions. And so we find a shelter tube in the garage and we say, well, we're going to have to recommend treatment anyway, so there's really no point in me getting in the crawl space. And the thing is, people are paying us to do an inspection on the home to find out how much evidence is there, how far have the termites been, have they eaten the sill plate? You know, is there substantial evidence in a crawl space that could affect the structure itself? And so we'd like to think that our guys are going to go ahead and get in that crawl space, and they're going to, and it's not fun. It's not a fun part of the job crawling through, but during real estate inspections, you want to have a company that does a thorough inspection of the property, make sure that if there are termites in the far corner of the crawl space, we see that too, because we're not out there just to give an estimate.
Oh gosh, no. And the cost of the inspection is really minimal. And truly having you, and I've seen you guys crawl into dark, tiny spaces and be down there for a really long time and show me pictures when you come out of what you found and what you're recommending and extensive damage. And sometimes you show me pictures, there's just a tube and there is no damage.
That's right. Yeah.
So no, I see you do that, and I really appreciate that you do. The business is a family business.
It is.
Your mom and dad started it?
They did in 1985. So, and we have a sign that hangs in our office that says the joys of owning a family business are only outdone by the joys of natural childbirth. And so it feels that way sometimes, you know, and I'm sure mom and dad would say the same thing about working with me and my wife and my aunt and my two sons. And so it is a family business. And even the people that work for us that are not related, they feel like family.
Like family.
Yeah, they feel like family.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes for me, I have to stop and think, oh, which is family? Who is in the family and who, yeah, because you treat your employees like family, and I see that, and that's really nice. What haven't I asked you that I should have covered already?
Well, I think we've talked a lot about the termite end of things, and we have to bear in mind when we're doing an inspection, the hopes are that we're doing a wood destroying insect inspection. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of different insects that we need to be concerned with, from carpenter ants to carpenter bees to powder post beetles. There's all sorts of various and sundry things that we need to worry about in the pest control industry, but provided the training is there with the inspector, they're going to see those things. And I think it's important. I think what we do is important to make sure that folks are protected, their investments are protected, and that they have some peace of mind when they go to sleep at night that something isn't eating their home.
That's true, because I've seen this. I mean, I have seen under an entire living room window, a big living room window, the whole bottom has been eaten out by termites. Around door frames, I've seen that everything has been chewed out because you guys uncovered it and showed us during the inspection, and then we had to have someone come in from a contractor perspective, finish taking it apart to make the repairs, and I've been there to see what it is. And yeah, I think if people are not under termite treatment, it seems like to me as a homeowner, it would be a good investment to have an inspection done every year or so, just so you know that
Sure.
They're not coming to make their home in your home.
Well, and the positive thing about where we are in our industry today is that because the labels have become, the requirements have dropped. So we only have to go once a year because the bait actually lasts that long now. So prices have really come down. And so the average home, to protect the average home from termites, it costs about $500 for an install. It used to be about $2,000. And so the prices have come down enough that it really makes sense to be proactive. There is a pest control equivalent to shutting the barn door before the horse is out. And oftentimes protecting a home is an ounce of prevention
Right.
is worth a pound of cure. And so we see that in the pest control industry routinely, and there are, with our system, no monthly fees associated with that. This is not we try to get you in and charge you every month. That's just not the way it works. And so protecting your home from termites is oftentimes a lot better than responding to what happens if you haven't.
That's for sure from what I've seen. Well, I want to thank you for taking time for visiting with us today and being part of Essentials with Dianne. And thank you for all the great service that you provide to my customers and clients, and along with a great education. Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
Thanks for being with us today. Essentials with Dianne, and our goal is to make our buyers and sellers the savviest in the marketplace. Let us know how we can help you.